1, 2, okay. Hi everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to the OpenGov Hub. If you want to go ahead and grab your seats, we're going to get started. Thanks for your patience as we corral everyone together. My name is Netta, and I'm the manager here at the OpenGov Hub. I'm really delighted to welcome you both to the OpenGov Hub and also to this particular event. And so I just wanted to share 1 minute about what the OpenGov Hub is if you're new to our community, and also talk about why we decided to organize this event. I guess just curious if you could raise your hand if this is your first time coming to the OpenGov Hub. Awesome, good, fantastic. Well, welcome again. Really happy to have you here. So for a little bit of background, the OpenGov Hub was established in late 2012, almost 4 years ago. And it was founded actually as the first co-working community to really focus on open government reform. So what that means is that all of our organizations, which are working in this big shared office right here, they're all promoting transparency and accountability and civic engagement all around the world. So we exist basically for 2 reasons. The first reason is to help all of these organizations just get their work done by sharing resources together. And this is especially important, for smaller organizations. And the second reason the OpenGov Hub exists is really to not just be this shared office space, but really a community for people to collaborate. So we really work hard to help our organizations work together and learn from each other so that they can have greater impact on promoting open government all around the world. As I said, we were founded about 4 years ago, and now we have almost 40 organizations and about 200 people who are part of our community. And most of our organizations are international development nonprofits. So that takes me to the second thing I want to say, which is why we're really excited to be hosting this event today. We're really delighted to be partnering with the CSP program, which you'll hear about in just a minute, and to have so many CSP fellows with us to really learn from you, because I think everyone in the room here knows that even with good intentions, sometimes international development projects don't always work out as they should. And a lot of organizations, in our community are interested actually in doing development differently and really making sure that we are as best as we can, kind of hearing directly from the people that we're all trying to serve in different ways, so that they can really shape and influence what's happening and really be empowered in the process. So that's why we're hosting this discussion this afternoon to hear directly from voices from the ground about kind of things that they've seen, times where international development has succeeded in having a positive impact and times where it maybe fell short, so that we can learn from these experiences and all kind of grow together as a community. So just want to invite you all to kind of take advantage of this opportunity to have an honest discussion, so for the purpose of learning and growth, so that we can all work together better. So with that, I will hand it over to Thomas, who's going to give you a quick background on the program itself, the CSP program, and then we'll jump into the program.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Thomas Fair. I'm the program coordinator for the Community Solutions Program at IREX. I'm looking around the room. I see a lot of familiar faces in terms of hosts, but it's good to see some new faces as well. Very briefly, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Community Solutions Program, we are a leadership development program as part of IREX. IREX, we have over 200 million people benefited. There are 20 different headquarters worldwide and 400 staff. So the CSP overview, this is the 6th year that the Community Solutions Program has been going on, and this is an important year for us because we've expanded to invite 100 fellows this year. Last year we had 55, and this year we have 100. The Community Solutions Program includes fellows from over 60 countries this year, and this year we've expanded to invite fellows from over 70 different countries. We're currently in the recruitment and application stage, and applications are open until November. So the CSP program has 3 components or pillars. The first is the 4-month practicum experience. Each Community Solutions Program fellow is placed with the practicum organization based on their interests and based on the organizations that they work with in their respective home countries, as well as the problems that they've addressed in their home communities. This is a 4-month-long fellowship, and it starts at the beginning of August and ends at the beginning of December. The second is the Community Leadership Institute, and this is a leadership institute that's facilitated through online learning as well as in-person orientation and end-of-program workshop. We facilitate programs, lessons like ethical leadership, motivational leadership, and mobilizing resources to develop their leadership skills. The third component is the planning and implementation of their follow-on project. All Community Solutions Program fellows have to propose an idea for a follow-on project. So working with their host practicum organization, they develop this idea, return to their home country, and implement this community project in their home country. So this is a little bit about the CSP leaders. The CSP leaders are all aged 25 to 38, and they're experienced community leaders with at least 2 years of experience. They have to have intermediate to advanced fluency and be from one of the eligible countries. And as I said earlier, we've expanded to over 70 countries this year. When applying, all the CSP leaders apply to one of the 4 thematic areas. You have transparency and accountability, tolerance and conflict resolution, environmental issues, and women and gender issues, with a youth component to a lot of them. So each of the host organizations, each of the fellows are identified as being a part of one of these 4 technical areas where they hone their technical expertise. A little bit about the U.S. practicum organizations. They focus on community needs that parallel the community needs which fellows address in their respective communities. They have to have the capacity to really utilize the skills that each of the fellows have while the fellows have the opportunity to share new knowledge that they have. In addition, that we look for organizations that are very open-minded and willing to have cross-cultural communications. This year we have 93 fellows across the country with 23 in the DMV area. So we're really excited to have a developed network, and we're looking to expand on it with events and opportunities like this. If you'd like to learn more about the organization and about the Community Solutions Program, we have a lot of flyers and information outside, as well as a booklet of all the current fellows who are in the 2016 cohort. Thank you.
Great. So with that, I want to invite our panelists to come up and join me up here. So we have 5 of the Community Solution Program fellows who are just going to have a quick conversation with, and then the second portion of the program will be some small group breakouts along certain thematic areas. And then just one small note about the program. So I think the representative from the State Department was no longer able to join us in the end, but just want to thank them. They fund the program as I understand. So so that's just as an FYI. But if the panelists can go ahead and join me on. Perfect. As I said, we just wanted to have a kind of short chat with our panelists here, focusing on the topic of the event before we move into the small group discussion. So very first thing, I'll actually just ask each of you to introduce yourself, your name, the country that you're coming from, and if you'd like to say just one word about kind of what you do back home, and then we'll go into the discussion. Starting.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, my last name is Tito. I was the first one always in school. So I'm Simona Adam. This is what it's called. I'm from Romania, and in all my work, I'm just trying to help Romania develop a bit faster than its normal pace.
Yeah, my name is Sandrina Alhamsi, coming from Damascus, Syria, as a CSP fellow. I work as an English teacher and instructor in Damascus University, and recently I'm working as a technician in the city of Damascus. and I'm here now to do it.
Hello, my name is Monihul. I'm from Bangladesh. I am a university teacher, public university, and my focus is to motivate my students to involve in extracurricular activities, not regular theoretical activities, to conserve the environment. That's.
Hi everyone, I'm Theophany Joy Cabanja. I'm from the Philippines. I'm a researcher and enterprise development specialist working in rural areas, specifically with women and farmers, and their passion, especially as an individual, and our other people who work with the community would like to empower women and improve productivity in their agribusinesses and other sectors that involve them in their economic activities.
Hello, my name is Joy Namnoga. I come from Uganda. I'm an advocacy officer back home. I do evidence-based advocacy, lawyer by profession, and a social scientist. I empower communities to demand for transparency and accountability. I work with state and non-state actors, partnership, donor engagement. Right here, I'm working with Sunlight Foundation. Thank you.
Great, thank you all so much. So even just from the short introductions, I think you can see the wealth of experience and knowledge that we have here. So again, really honored to have you guys with us. So I just wanted to ask a few questions to try to get to some of these stories and voices from the ground. So each of you have been in DC, for a few months, and hopefully you've gotten to see some of the NGO world and the international development world that's here in DC. And I know personally, I think one of the challenges about being someone who's based in DC is, sometimes you're very far removed from the bottom line impact that your work is supposed to be supporting, right? So, so my first question is specifically for a few of you, if you could talk about in your specific country, in your specific context, what do you think are one or two of the biggest challenges as well as the opportunities for international development organizations to actually be supporting the growth and progress in your country? Maybe Cinderella, do you want to get us started about Syria?
Yeah, hello everybody again. Since I'm coming from Syria, which is the most affected country in the world in terms of tourism, actually within the context of the fluctuations, variables, and the actual conflict inside Syria we have today, I think that instability and insecurity is the most notable challenge that we have today when we are working on field, on ground. And the other challenge that I feel that we have to point out is the lack of funding. It seems that most of the times that we do have a shortage of funding, and I feel that as well that the ready-made design of international programs that work actually very greatly actually in international context may not be great fit in the Syrian context. As well, I would like to add that the reluctant attitude by local counterparts, when we are working inside, so I feel that it's very, great challenge as well. And now, may I move to opportunities? Definitely that we have a very great opportunity and chance actually for international communities to work, because we need actually to support the Syrian resilience inside Syria, and to keep living in the Syrian youth of having the Syrians keeping them motivated and still active on ground. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next person, maybe Joy, if you want to talk about the situation in Uganda.
Okay, when we talk about work of international development organizations in relation to Uganda's work, two factors come into play. Most of the programs in Uganda are designed in an air-conditioned office like this one. while it's going to be implemented at the grassroots. So when such programs are being brought home, the voices of the communities are lacking. So instead of the project yielding results, it will be more like a project dumping. The community won't accept that it's their own project. They'll think it's your show, and once the project ends, it will be very hard to even trace the outcome. Then another issue is about duplication of initiatives. You may find that very many international development organizations are funding one anti-corruption initiative in the same area with just different CSOs. So it leads to unhealthy competition between the CSOs because they are fighting for results, they are fighting for the same beneficiaries. And when it reaches to tracking outcomes, you might find that there is only one outcome, which is going to be shared among the 6 civil society organizations on their street websites, but very much money has been dumped into such initiatives. So it leads to wastage. The only opportunity I'm seeing is that communities are very willing to work with international development organizations once they are involved, once their voices are put into the program design. We shouldn't just make cosmetic designs very beautiful and bring them back home. You involve them, they'll even open your eyes, and you end up having a superb approach to the development agenda. Thank you.
And then to shift regions again, Simona, do you want to just answer the same question, but speaking about Romania?
Okay, it's very hard to choose in a country that is part of the EU for 9 years now, and also part of NATO, but also has 1 in 2 people living in or at risk of poverty, by far the highest rate of maternal mortality in the EU, infant mortality, by far the highest rate of tuberculosis, for example. So I will just tell you a story, okay? 4 years ago, I was teaching civic education in Ferentari, which is the Bucharest ghetto, and I'm still volunteering there. Cannot wait to go home, see the kids. We, in one of the classes, we made an exercise of presidential elections. And I was one of the candidates, and I did something which is ethically well. Like in any candidacy in Romania, I promised them a lot of things. My key selling point was, if you are going to vote for me, I am going to do this, and you are going to have very long, silky hair. And they voted for me, and I won. And they, so the kids were, their average age was 14, and had no kind of mental disability or something like that. And they came all to me and they said, but where is my hair? I voted for you. And then I had a whole conversation about, lies during presidential and during elections, and how you shouldn't, we have a saying in Romania, you shouldn't eat everything that flies. Yeah, and they, so they said, actually Toto said, you know what, I'm not going to believe all the lies I'm being said from now on. And I think this is happening in Romania right now. This is a huge challenge and also an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for us. And I think we together, we need to build, to strengthen the bottom of the pyramid, because this is how we create this critical mass, not to leave people, the political mass to do whatever they want with us.
Thank you so much. I feel like there's a lot we could say about learning from the parallel in elections and campaigns and politicians promising long, silky hair and things like this. But anyway, let me. Okay. So the next question I want to ask is for some of the other panelists that we have. If you could just share an example of the time in which you saw an international development program in your country that did actually effectively take into account the voices of the communities that they were meant to. And yeah, Muriel, do you want to start us for Bishop?
Okay, thank you for asking the questions. I will share lots of international organizations. Like in our country, we have 2,500 local NGO and 250 international organizations working in our country. So lots of success story. I'll share only 2. That is, in our country is a cyclone-prone area. So every year, thousands of people died because of cyclone. So I think some of you from USAID. So USAID with the government, they built some shelter nearby the coastal area. So during that period, especially in March, April, May, these 3 months is like cyclone affected month. So during that month, they give the signal and they shifted to the people to the shelter. It's like hundreds of shelter there. So, and what's happened other times, so they use that shelter for education's rest of the month. So that is very effective. So nowadays, the death rate decreased because of that initiatives. And another success story is like food for educations that is implemented by World Bank with the government, that is especially for poor people in rural area. People don't feel interested to send their children to the school because they feel short-term focus, like tomorrow what we need to eat. So after getting education, they're involved in job, they don't focus long-term things. So what the World Bank did, that if you send your kids to the school, we'll provide you food grains. And because of that project, the enrollment rate increased, school attendance rate increased, dropout rate decreased. I feel myself that this is successful because they focused two human development things. One is education and another thing is nutrition. So that was maybe replicated other developing country also to increase the education rate. Thank you.
And basically, I'm talking about in the Philippines.
Okay. In the years past, I worked with an international project. It's called the Rural Micro Enterprise Promotions Program, or RUMEP. It was a 7-year project, and it was funded by the International Fund for Agricultural Development. And it has 3 approaches. First is to improve microfinance industries so that they can provide microfinance support to micro entrepreneurs. Second part was enhancing the capacities of micro entrepreneurs through enterprise development initiatives, including market linkage, including product development, including organizational management of their own businesses. And lastly is to provide support for small, medium enterprise centers who would provide additional mentoring and facilities for these micro entrepreneurs. So this 7-year program had truly impacted mostly of the 19 most poorest provinces in the country. And because of that project, that initiative, employment increased in terms of that area from 10 to 10 employees. Most of our beneficiaries would have increased until 20 to 25, help job generation in that area. So income influx helped as well the economic activities in that certain region. Products were created, wonderful products with innovative ideas that for not only for local consumption, but also for exports. And lastly, we have seen the increase of the number of micro entrepreneurs in those areas, which also has led into voices of the business sector that will also provide policy inputs for development programs in each province and each region. So I think that was a very good success in that program.
Great, thank you guys so much. So the very last question that I want to ask for each of you to comment on before we shift to the next part of the program is basically, you're here in DC and your fellowship time, I'm sure, is going by too quickly, and just 1 month left. And obviously, DC is really at the heart of the whole international development industry. So if you had the chance to speak, let's say for 1 minute or 2 minutes, to someone like the head of the World Bank or the head of USAID or another major development actor, what word or 2 words might you tell them about how you would hope to see them do development a little bit differently? I know it's a big question. Does anyone want to start us off?
close. Okay. So because the World Bank is so close, I would say the same thing that I would have told them when I was working at the government. My previous job was in a technocratic government, working as a technocrat. And I remember arriving at the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, and I reread our national strategy on social inclusion and poverty reduction, which is a really good strategy. But when the majority of the people in the ministry who is supposed to implement the strategy didn't even know the title of the strategy, I'm not saying about reading it and actually implementing it. And secondly, we realized that a lot of the employees from the ministry, they just suspended their job because the law permits that, and they went and they worked for the World Bank with a salary like 10 times higher, project-based, which was really good. I mean, again, the strategy is really good, and now it's implemented, and so on and so forth. But what I would say, I'm sorry if I'm not politically correct, I'm sorry, it's just, I think implementation, we have a great strategy. In the same time, I think we should do the same kind of lobby to make sure that we are implementing what we have in that strategy. I know it's a government job, but it should be also the government job to do the strategy. That's all I can say. But this is in the second. But I will also say that it was a great work. It was a great amount of work and a great amount of data that has been done with their help that we managed to publish. Unfortunately, 2 years later than it should have been, but we managed to publish a lot of data in an open format. Also with their help, voluntary help.
Okay, so just as a moderator, sounds like in a word, kind of making the advice you would give, let's say, is making sure that all the good ideas actually translate into implementation and action, and helping the kind of recipient governments make that transition.
Finished.
Okay, great. Maybe we can move on.
Since that's working actually in a complex zone, so first of all, I would like to deliver a message that we should support the whole effort in which helping enlarging the Syrians' resilience against all the challenges that we are going through. I mean, when it comes to their basic needs like food, water, gas, electricity, and so we can help actually to reduce migration, which is the refugee crisis that we have, and alleviate the effect of the Syrian crisis as well. And I would love to say thank you for keep believing in the Syrian youth and the Syrian youth capacities and capabilities, and and we can help the Syrians still living on their own territory with pride and dignity as we used to live actually back in 2011, rather than so we can just put the effort on the Syrian ground, rather than helping and trying to alleviate the refugee crisis. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a little bit more time this time. I want to share a story before answering that. There is it's maybe beginning of this year, we had a campaign in our country. I'm not mentioning the company or organization name who did it. So the campaign was like this: if you have the unused or old mobile phone, you can give to us, and we will repair, and we give it to the poor people. So that was the campaign, and I calculated that that campaign sustained 3 months, and if I only calculate the television's advertisement for that campaign 3 times in a day, 3 months, so 1 minute. For 1 minute, they spend near about $1,000. So in a day, $3,000. So 3 months, millions of dollars. So they only collected hundreds of mobile and they repair and they distributed. But we can save that money and we can buy some cheap mobile and we could distribute to the poor people, like 40,000 people. So I want to say we need to formulate some realistic project, not like, so later I asked to the authority why you did this, because they said we need to show some of the stakeholders that we are doing something. So showing up is not the okay, but we need to formulate some realistic projects so that it can be benefited the bottom line of pyramid. So I want to say another things like in our country, life expectancy is 70 years average. So human cannot live with the relief, with the donations throughout his life or her life. So we need to invest, we need to train them. Based on that training, we need to invest, we need to create job so that they can be independent, not dependent throughout his life. That should be the main focus of the international organizations like World Bank or some other development organizations. Thank you.
Okay. In the Philippines, if everyone would know about 2013, Typhoon Haiyan went through the Philippines. It's a hurricane grade 5, and over 20,000 people died in that hurricane. And on that disaster, we had seen lots of international organizations work together from Europe, from Asia, from the United States and Southern America. So the first thing that I would like to say to these international organizations is thank you. Thank you so much for making and helping our country a surviving entity, a moving on region wherein right now we're striving our best to go back into what we were before 30, 40 years back. In regards to the assistance of international organizations, continuously, yes, first is disaster preparedness. We admit that climate change is affecting everyone, including our country. We are being hit by typhoons, 20 typhoons a year. So even though there's so many infrastructure projects, social initiatives there, sometimes it goes to waste just because of these calamities. And disaster preparedness, including disaster risk reduction in planning, in governance, and even in data management is very important for these initiatives to be supported. Second, in terms of economic development, right now, World Bank has given so many infrastructure projects in Mindanao, the southern island in the Philippines, and it has provided opportunities for agriculture in various industries. But then it's globalization. So we would like to see 10, 20 years time, how can the Philippines be a contribution as well to other countries in terms of products, in terms of human capital, in terms of resources. So those are the potential projects and programs that maybe and might be very useful, not just only for us, but also for the other parts of the world.
Thank you, Joy. Coming from a country which is amongst the most corrupt, I just speak from my background. Yeah, it's not news. Uganda is one of the most corrupt countries. We've been hit by wars several times. But this is my opinion, what is funny, we continue receiving funds from donors like World Bank and Global Fund, and some of the money is being embezzled. Despite the fact that that money is being embezzled, we continue receiving more. So, in case I need to meet the president of the World Bank, the Global Fund, what I will put on the table is, why do you continue giving that money when we've not even accounted for what we were given before? Two, and their administrative sanctions, because Uganda has the best legal laws in Africa, much as they are in shells, and we are not using them. But I know that international development organizations have administrative sanctions they can do in order to make sure Uganda puts the books in order. But why do we continue seeing more money, more budgets coming, yet we are still having many cases in court, culprits are never brought to book? Then another issue will be generic. I'm seeing very many initiatives. We have very many donors, by the way, in Uganda. In every area, you will see a donors post, signpost standing somewhere. The initiatives are very good: health, education. You find any mushrooming idea having a funder. But when such projects end, when their time frame has passed, it's very hard to sustain them. It seems international development organizations come with their projects. When they pass, the projects go at their back. So how can we sustain such initiatives? Instead of coming up with very new ideas, instead of coming up with mushrooming projects, how can we ensure that what we started is being sustained in order to contribute to Uganda's development agenda and to the Millennium Development Goals? That's it. Thank you.
Great. Well, if you can join me in thanking our panelists on this. What we're going to do now is just transition. So Simona is going to give a very quick presentation based on basically to share the results of a really fantastic survey that was taken of the whole network of Community Solutions alumni, so that we can get a little more food for thought kind of for this conversation, and then we'll break out into small groups. And I know some of you might have burning questions or frustrations maybe that this brought up. That's definitely what the small groups are designed for. Yeah, I'll just hand it over to Simona to share the results of this really interesting survey, and then we'll break up. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So we are just, I think, 15 or 18 CSP fellows in this room, and we wanted to offer some space for the other fellows from this year or the previous years to just speak their mind. And we did a very short, simple survey with 10 questions, from which 2 are demographic questions, just to ask them what works, what they feel like it works, and what doesn't work in our collaboration. Before I start, I just want to say that my general feeling is that we think that this is a collaboration with 2 ends, and we are so happy, for working together in one way or another. So this survey was just to think of some ideas: how can we improve our collaboration in your work and all of our efforts, especially because the world is changing so fast, and maybe what was a priority last year is not the priority, it will not be the main priority in the next 5 years. Okay, so I will try to move forward. Okay, thank you. Okay, so as I said, we had 81 responses. We had the survey running for less than 2 weeks. Maybe for the next survey, we are going to have a longer, biggest number of responses. Most of them were from Sub-Saharan Africa. We had 38 responses, and then we had 14 from East Asia and Pacific, 10 from South Asia, 13 from Europe and Central and Central Asia, and 3 from South Asia and Middle East and North Africa as well, 3 each. So yes, the answers are really subjective, and the survey is not statistically, it doesn't have a statistic importance, but we feel that it might provide relevant insights. So what we've learned from this, I hope you'll not laugh, that is my drawing. The general point is that the more you are going to have qualitative data that you are going to gather directly from the end beneficiary, then the more relevant your program is going to be, which is not rocket science. I'm sure everyone knows that, but this is a reminder and maybe a second thought of that. And also a key point is do incorporate feedback and also involve your end beneficiaries, because you might get really good results afterward, pre, during, and post-program implementation. And another thing, because we also asked, the nexuses. What should we focus on together? And we realized that empowering women and entrepreneurship is like a hot topic, and also closing the gap, the access to education, so strengthening the bottom of the pyramid maybe, and of course open data, which I think is of great interest for everyone who is in this room. Open data and democracy and justice. So I will just go really quickly through the questions. The first question, I hope you are seeing the slides, I'm not sure. So the first question asked, what channels of communication do international organizations use in order to listen to the voice of the end beneficiaries? And what we could see, the first thing is reports from the local NGOs. So it's an indirect form of communication. And the second thing is a focus group, which is direct, and it's mostly indirect, because usually the focus group are also done by the local NGOs. And the third is town hall meetings and community meetings. Here I cannot say which type of communication it is, but 63 out of 81 said it's just, your partner, the person who are usually funding or working with, it's also saying you how well the project is going or not. The second question is on the feedback. So do you incorporate the feedback or not? And yeah, 66% said that they feel like the feedback is incorporated rarely or never, which I think is a question. Again, it's a very subjective answer, but 66%. It's a good thing, though. I have the tendency to see that the glass is full. So 31% feel like this feedback is truly incorporated, which is good, but let's think if that is good enough. Another question is, you can move to the other slide. Another question is on nexuses. So we wanted to see, which are like the main areas in which we should focus on the next 5 years. And we could see that empowering women and entrepreneurship is ranked first by far in most of the areas, excepting Europe and Central Asia, where it's open data. And then we have access to education, and then we have entrepreneurship, maybe because, I think it's a matter of opportunities that have been there, the funding that happened before. Also in Africa, we have very close to the third place with eradicated diseases. So of course, depending on the local level, you might have one area, one subject or another. But for me, it was wow, empowering women and entrepreneurship. It's so important. I thought before seeing the survey and the responses that open data is going to come first, or I don't know, maybe education. But it was this other subject, which for me is really a finding. We'll discuss more on the areas, because we have 5 topics depending on the findings of the survey, and you have them on the agenda. Okay, going forward, we asked them to give an honest opinion on what international organizations should do better, so that on open data, and we have a special question on open data because I think it's important for all of us. And what I've seen is that teaching citizens to use open data is really important, 85%, but also teaching the governance, those who have the power to come up with the data and publish it, also they should be trained on how to publish it, how to use visualization. 42% said that we should research on the negative effects of open data. So this is a research in itself, and I know researchers who are having grants and they spend their life researching now what is the negative effect of open data. But I think this is also important to ask ourselves, in which context open data might produce a negative effect. This we will discuss on area number 2 of the open discussion. Going forward, because I don't want to steal all the time, what kind of support do you want from international organizations? And here we had overall funding and capacity building and training in the same place. But I want to say that funding was by far, it was ranked number 1 in sub-Saharan Africa. It was like 85%, for funding, and then second came capacity building and training. While in Europe, it was rather Europe and Central Asia, it was rather capacity building and training, and funding came a lot lower. Of course, in that part of the world, for example, in Europe, we also have European funds, and we have a lot of other funding that we can reach out to. Also, companies are spending a lot more in corporate social responsibility initiatives. So this is another thing to think of. Going again forward, we just asked for some examples of what Nada actually asked us. Okay, give us some good examples, and we have around 100 testimonials. I just choose what I felt is good. And what I saw in all the responses, like a red line, is the fact that when you are involving the end beneficiaries in the process, in thinking the program, in implementing it, in monitoring, and so on and so forth, the program, as I said, has more chances to be more effective and more relevant. You can read this. We will send you a follow-up email after this, and we can send you the actual testimonials. I'm not going to read them, but I hope those are useful. And in the same time, we asked what doesn't work. And going to the last slide, we've seen a lot of topics. From one, bureaucracy, which was the main thing. Bureaucracy meaning, international organizations in general sometimes asks for so many reports and so many paperwork, so that you will not really have the time to go on the ground and implement things. Because you can only afford to have a certain number of employees, for example. And then I've seen a topic that is really dear to my heart. How much can you go for PR purposes? When I say PR is, an image is 1,000 words, right? And I've seen some testimonials saying, okay, in what context can you use an image of a person that is most vulnerable? And I've seen that I think for 10 times. And here is someone from Nepal who wrote it. Another topic is, okay, you are thinking of a program from your office, maybe from another country, and you are not really asking people from the local level what is the whole, the entire process. And you can find situations like this one in Ghana, when someone just brought a water tank, which I'm sure it's really useful, but they never thought of the entire process. So the water tank is not really used because they cannot fill it during drainage season, right? I'm sure this happens. This happens everywhere. Like it's very hard to ask the beneficiaries from the start. I know it takes a lot of time, but maybe it has it pays off in the end. So these are like the main findings. The survey is not the best. I know we are not statisticians, But we do hope that the voice of the other fellows, the other 81 fellows, who are now literally all over the world, is useful for you. So now I will give the floor back to Christy. So Christy, yeah. So she will explain what we are going to do with the open discussion and facilitated discussion.
All right, well, thank you so much for that, Simona. So now we are going to break up into 5 different sections based on the specific area that you might have interest in. And it's all in the flyers that you got. So we're going to break up into different parts of the event space, and we're going to have facilitate discussion with CSP fellows who are going to be leading the discussion. We're going to be answering some questions, and we're going to take 10 minutes to discuss the questions in here, and then we're going to discuss, then we're going to switch groups, so you are allowed to have more than one interest area. You don't just have to choose one, which I know can be difficult. So after 10 minutes, we're going to switch. You can go to a different group, answer the questions, and then we're going to reconvene and talk about our findings and what we figured out together. So the different areas that you can choose from are education and development within conflict zones, open data and media in closed societies, empowering women through entrepreneurship, challenges and opportunities in local funding, or environmental issues. So I guess everyone can start thinking about what area they want to choose, and we can break up. And we have the 2 or 3 areas out there for 4 areas out there, sorry. So if you can go and decide which group you want to be in, and we'll start the facilitate discussions. And there's one in the back of the room. That's the environmental discipline. Go ahead and grab a seat. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do a very quick group debrief before we move into the happy hour. So thank you all so much for sticking around for the small groups. And if I can have your 5 minutes of final attention. Thank you so much. So just to help kind of summarize some of the insights that have just happened, given that we weren't all able to join the different groups, I just wanted to do kind of popcorn style. So just ask a couple questions and just raise your hand if you want to share a quick word. So first question will be general. If anyone here can share, like, what was the most surprising thing that maybe you heard in any of the small groups that you were just part of? Something that really struck you, maybe it was a different way of thinking about a problem or anything like that. Anyone want to share? Thank you.
So I was in the local funding group, and something that was shared that surprised me was that representative from Macedonia said that there's 2 kinds of organizations. There's the NGOs who manage to get the funding from international donors, and there's actually the grassroots organizations which don't get the funding, but who are doing the real work. And so that was surprising to me that there were kind of like two like grassroots organizations, but international donors regard them as the same type. And then I also heard from him about the parable about the blobs and the squares. I'm not sure if like everyone in the room here knows about that, but it's basically about, I don't know if you want to explain it.
It's an old story of a big international organization with a lot of money that wanted, thanks. It's a story about a big international organization with a lot of money that wanted to do international development and give money to organizations to do that work. However, there were 2 kinds of organizations that it had to select from to give the money to. One organization was one kind of organization was a square. It met all the requirements for right angles and line size and all of these kinds of things. These rules that it had to follow. And the other kind of organization was a blob, which could fit into all the little gaps in communities and do that community-based grassroots work. And so it found out that the blob organizations were a lot more mobile, a lot more agile, and a lot better able to do the work. So it wanted to give those organizations more money. But in order to do so, it had to make sure that these organizations could check all of the boxes, could fit all of the requirements for angle, angle type, and line size, and all of these kinds of things. So it gave trainings to the blob organizations. And as these trainings went on, slowly, these blob organizations began to look more like squares. And they were able to get those requirements, they were able to get the money from the big international development organization. However, once these organizations looked like squares, they found out that they were constrained by their angles and their lines, and they were not able to fill the community gaps anymore, and they were less and less able to do the work. And lo and behold, there was no grassroots organization. It's a very sad story, but it's a very cautionary tale to think that sometimes we have to be able to figure out a way to work with the blobs and not make them look like squares. Maybe sometimes capacity building to make everyone be able to do the reporting well is not the most appropriate thing.
Thank you. Better come deep. Thank you. So any other individuals, no matter which group you were part of, do you want to share something that really struck you, that was surprising, that you didn't expect necessarily? Anything like that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay. Very fast. So I think I don't really know. Somebody came up with the idea that we as organizations work on data. We should create platforms because the subject is so new and we don't know maybe all the research. For me, this was a use. We should have like a bigger OpenGov Hub, like an international platform, so that we all contribute.
Great, thank you. And that moves us to the final little thing that I was hoping we could do, which is just share one idea that came from the different groups. So I know that was open data. Surprise, you just shared your contribution. No, just for the sake of time, though, if the other facilitators can just share one idea. Obviously, we're not going to do the conversation justice because we don't have time to summarize it, but just really one idea that really stuck out for you. So maybe we can start with the forest and environment group. Just for Bethany.
Okay, we discussed different alternatives, but what I personally like, one people from Nepal, he shared a very good insight. That is, in Nepal, 80% is forest area. So what the government do, they just hand over to the local community, and they say, this is your forest, this is your property, you can cultivate, harvest some other fruits, and you can take away and you can sell to the market. So that's the way government protect the forest, and that's the good idea. So there is a competition among the communities that how can we make better the forest. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
Friendly competition is always a good way to get people to do things. Great, thank you. The Women in Entrepreneurship group. Yeah, thanks.
So we've identified a series of barriers that don't help, that hinder women into becoming real entrepreneurs. I won't enumerate all, but I'm gonna say just one question that I received from one of the participants that said, okay, I don't deal so much with women entrepreneurs, but why do we differentiate women entrepreneurs from men entrepreneurs? So I think in the moment in which we won't differentiate between the two, there will be no barriers. So.
Great point. Fantastic. How about the group talking about development in conflict environments and refugees? Yeah.
A very quick note that we prefer to look at the roots. We wish that we can solve the refugee issue from the root from any countries, to look inside the country and try to solve them. as a U.S. citizens, what I like, as a U.S. citizens, we need to look at the question which is like raised during our discussion. Why should I care? No, you should care. How you should care? Through your advocacy, changing the perception, through spotting the light on the strength of the refugees and the good part, not the bad part, and trying to open the eyes more in a very bright way, unlike the dirty media. This is the point.
Yeah, we all have a role to play, absolutely. The local funding group, maybe, yeah, thanks.
Right. Money. Everybody wants money. Okay. I think this is one of the most difficult topics that we have here. Because for all this to happen, there needs to be some funding. But how about talking about local funding? It's something that we discussed in our group to say, how best can we tap into the local resources other than looking outside to America or to the European Union or whatever? How can we maybe crowdsourcing or whatever? How can we do that? Can we look around ourselves and use the available resources, material, or the little funding that we have to ensure that our project probably can move forward sustainably? Thank you.
Okay. Any final words? I know I'm the only thing that stands between you and food and drink, so I want to stop talking. But yeah, maybe just a final comment what you're thinking about.
I think just to add on the funding, Jim, what I've got out of it here is that what is important is not, okay, well, the money is important, but beyond that is the capacity building, empower the organizations, empower the grassroots organizations, so that if you go away after you've planted your seed, let that seed grow. Don't come here, don't come, do your stuff, give us the money, don't teach us how to sustain ourselves, and then you go on. 5 years from now, you're not proud of what you did because it's not there. That's what my biggest take home.
Thank you so much. That's actually a really good word to end on, I think. So maybe we can just give all of ourselves and our CSP fellows a round of applause. So please stick around as much as you like and really take advantage of the opportunity. You know, we have over 12, I guess 15 CSP fellows. They should all be wearing blue name tags, so you should be able to identify them pretty easily. Okay, blue or green. But really hope you take the chance to connect with each other. And please get in touch with OpenGov Hub if you're interested in continuing these conversations about how we can do development better. And thank you so much for coming.